Hey everybody, how you doing? Joe here from the Scruffy Fam. So today we're going to talk about this stuff. We're going from fresh to freeze dried. If you guys like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and let's go through it. Hey everybody, how you doing? Joe here from the Scruffy Fam. Hey, so today what I wanted to show you guys is how we actually are going to be using our freeze dryer to help us as we go through winter. So winter is really just starting to kick in here in Wisconsin. Today we got our first 2 to 5 inches of snow. So in the winter we usually eat a lot of like the heartier foods, chilies, soups, anything that like really just what we used to say sticks to the bones, sticks to the ribs. So thought I'd bring you guys along with what I'm doing today. You'll hear some bubbling in the background. What I'm doing is I am making our nachos and tacos that we are going to freeze dry. So here, I'll show you here what I got going on. This is an 8-quart Dutch oven. It's my enamel Dutch oven. I love this thing. I got this for Christmas a couple years ago. I cook a lot in this, so anytime you're doing enamel, wood or plastic, silicone, do not use metal with these things. I actually got this really cool wood spatula at the Renaissance Fair here in Wisconsin. So what I've got here is about 5 pounds of ground beef. It's organic ground beef that we got from Costco. It's about 5 pounds. And so I've already added all of my spices. I've let this cook down. And I'm just letting this marinate in its own juices, because what I'll do is I will actually remove this from here, drain it. I'll drain all this off, because if you see right here, we've got some of the grease and stuff. I am going to let that cook in, but I'm going to remove the grease and drain it before it goes in our freeze dryer, because you can't really freeze dry fats very well. So like butter and anything with high sugar content, it's hard. I may be wrong about the butter, but from what I remember, the high fat content things have a very hard time actually freeze drying. I know high sugar stuff like honey doesn't work. And then in the corner over here, I'm actually tethered right now because my GoPro died. I'll show you guys in a little bit here. I've got 2 Instant Pots going that I actually have whole beans in. So I have dried whole beans. I have one of black beans, one of pinto beans, and I am cooking those up right now in the Instant Pots. So you can do dried beans in your Instant Pots. It takes a little bit longer, but you can do them. It's like 30 minutes. You just rinse your beans, sort them, put them in, and then 30 minutes for black beans, 25 for pinto beans, and you can let them go. So what I'm going to do with those, I'm actually going to make refried beans with those. So I'm getting them cooked and softened right now, and then I'll cook them again to get them even more soft, and then I'll mash them up and make refried beans. And then what we're going to do is we're having nachos tomorrow night for dinner, so I'm just pre-cooking right now. I will take what we're going to use for dinner tomorrow night, and I'll just put it in the fridge, so we just have to warm it up. And then the rest of this is going to go in the freeze dryer, and we'll put them in mason jars or mylar bags, and we'll have them throughout the winter, that if we're going to do nachos or tacos, we just have to pull that out, add some hot water, wait a couple minutes, and ready to go. So that's one way we're using our freeze dryer for this. And so I thought I'd bring you guys along and show you what I'm doing today along the process. So right now I'm just letting this meat finish marinating in its own juices. I've got it on just a low simmer. It's still pretty hot in here. So once I get this draining, I'm gonna guess that the beans aren't gonna be ready yet. I'm not gonna put the beans in the freeze dryer the same time I put the ground beef in the freeze dryer, because they are much denser. I'm gonna put the beef in first, let that finish freeze drying. When that cycle's done, then I'll put the refried beans in, and I'll put all those in together to let them do their cycle. I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's all said and done. But this will be my freeze-dried nacho dinner, and we'll see what it turns out like. See you guys in a couple minutes. Alright guys, okay, so let me show you what I got here. I've got 2 trays. These are large. We have the Harvest Right large. So we've got 2 trays of the ground beef. And then I've got here what we're going to use tomorrow night. Okay, so you can see all that liquid in there that I was letting it cook in. Man, that's the good stuff. It just doesn't freeze dry really well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this finish cooling off, because I don't want to put steaming hot food into the freeze dryer. You can, it's just going to take forever to freeze dry. So we don't normally freeze our stuff before it goes in the freeze dryer. You can, we don't. Our house, it's inside of our house, it's already temperature controlled. If it's in your garage or workshop or something and it's outside and it's got to work really hard, we don't have that issue here. So I'm going to just cool this off. I'm going to stick it in my fridge, drop the temperature down a little bit, and that'll be going on while the freeze dryer's going. And let me show you here what I got going on with my 2 Instant Pots. Okay, so here's my 2 Instant Pots. This is the black beans, this is the pinto beans. Yes, I have 2 Instant Pots. I also have a crock pot. And there's times when all of those are going at the same time. So what'll happen is when that timer goes off, I'm going to let this just naturally depressure for 20 minutes, and then I'll quick release it. I'll check the consistency of the beans if they're nice and squishy. It's a technical term, squishy. I'm going to drain them off, and then I will actually transfer them to another pot to get them. I'll really stir them up to start to mash them down for the refried. And then once that's done, I will get those on trays, and they'll go in the fridge to cool, and those will probably go in the freeze dryer tomorrow, minus what we separate for what we're going to use. So let's go turn on our freeze dryer here. So here is our large Harvest Right freeze dryer with our pump. Everything is set up right here. And if you guys watched our video on freeze dryer versus dehydrator, our dehydrator is right next to it. So I'm just going to hit start. And then if you can read that, wait 15 minutes before loading trays. So I'm going to let that wait. You can actually let it go longer than those 15 minutes, and because we've got something that was so warm, I'm actually going to wait on that. You guys can see the hole. That's a vlog for another time, but yes, there's a hole in our office ceiling. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put the ground beef into the fridge to cool. We're going to wait at least those 15 minutes before I put these in. When I put them in, we'll hit go and see what happens. And then I'll show you guys the beans when they come out, and I'll show you how I refry them before we get those in. And then we'll wrap everything up. Once everything is freeze dried, I'll show you what that looks like. I'll do kind of a fresh next to a freeze dried. But really excited for it, and we'll see you guys here in a bit. Alright guys, so I actually waited 40 minutes to put the ground beef in, but here we go. We have 2 trays of ground beef in here. We're still on the, let that focus, we're still on the freezing cycle. We're already at 26 degrees. So it was 29 degrees in here when I actually put these in. So that means it's already below freezing. That's good. That'll mean that'll work quicker. If I was doing ice cream, I would let this thing go for like 45 minutes almost to get the temperature way down, so that when it went in, it'd be at a really cold temperature so the ice cream wouldn't melt. But because we're doing ground beef in here, I had already started to cool it. So because I didn't see the temperature go up, means I cooled it enough for it to be in here. So that's good. But let's go look at what I got going on for the beans. All right, so here's our black beans and here's our pinto beans. So these both are now done. They're cooling off a little bit, and some of these are already mushed up a little bit. So the refried part of this that I'm going to do is I'm going to mash these up. And I simply use a potato masher, and I'll go through here and I'll smash these. Oops, see if I can do this. I use a potato masher and I'll smash these beans in here, and I'll stir them together, and then I'll warm them back up. I'll cook them again. So I'm just breaking them open. some of you may be cringing, like how could you do this to the beans? I do this for a couple reasons. One, my kids like them better this way, and it's easier for them to eat and use. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to keep going on with this with both of them. I'll show you guys what they look like when they're done. Again, I will pull off what we're going to use for our nachos tomorrow, and I'll show you guys what these look like on the trays. So stick with me. Okay guys, so here are our black beans, refried black beans. So I've got them on the tray. I've got some silt pats underneath them just in case, to make it easier to clean up. And then over here we have our pinto beans. Here's our pinto beans. Only one silt pat because we're saving the pinto beans for our refried beans for dinner tomorrow night. So I've got, oh, that light sucks. So what I've done is I've made 5 pounds of ground beef, 2 pounds of dried beans that I refried, and of that we're probably going to eat 1.5 pounds of the ground beef tomorrow night and 0.5 pound of the beans tomorrow night. So all that stuff's going to get going for tomorrow. I've got it in the fridge already. I'm going to let these other beans cool off a little bit before I put them in the fridge. They'll stay in the fridge tonight, and then tomorrow when the ground beef comes out, these will go in the freeze dryer, and then I'll show you what everything looks like after it's out of the freeze dryer. So pretty excited for this. This is just one of our meals that we'll be able to use into the winter. So we'll see you guys once everything is freeze dried. Alright guys, this is the next morning. The freeze drying process is all the way complete. I got everything jarred up. So you have an option when you freeze dry. You can put things in Mylar bags. You can put them in mason jars, depending on kind of how long you want to store them for. If you're going to do like long-term storage, Mylar bags are great because they prevent any light from getting in. But we're probably going to use these over the next couple of months. So instead of, you know, saving them for the next year or two or more, we'll be using these in the months coming. So we just put them in mason jars. So here's what we got going. I ended up getting 2.5 quarts of the taco meat freeze dried, and we did this just shy of a 1/2 gallon of the black beans refried, and then 1 quart of the pinto beans refried. And this here is some broccoli, chicken, and cauliflower that we had for dinner that we had some leftovers, so I purposely made a lot of that just so we'd have leftovers. And the really cool thing about this is a meal that our family actually really enjoys, but it is an also take-along for Tasha when she goes to work, because what we can do is I can split this into little pint jars, and we can put some hot water in it that can rehydrate. We've got these little canteens. We can put that in, put the hot water in. So then she'll be able to have just a hot meal when it's super cold outside. Same thing with the taco meat here. This little one would be great. I'm going hunting at least another couple times, and it is cold outside, so I can put this in a thermos. I can have it heated up and warming while I'm out hunting, and then by the time I'm done, I can come back and it'll be nice and hot to eat. So that's really nice. Also, we have a very busy life. I'm at our jiu-jitsu school several times a week, especially at night. So coming home, just being able to add some hot water to one of these, stir it up, rehydrate it, and eat it is much less time consuming than me going through the process of making everything. So this is actually really handy. And one of the things we're going to start doing is, as I'm making meals, we have 6 people that are eating here, so we eat a lot of food. I'm going to purposely start making a lot extra so that we can have some leftovers. We used to do that, but as the twins started eating more food, there aren't many leftovers when we're done eating. So I'm going to purposely over make things that we'll then freeze dry, that we'll have, especially the things we really, really enjoy eating. And what's really great during the winter is we eat a lot of soups and stews that freeze dry really, really well. And what I'll do is I'll actually put them in these little pint mason jars, and that way Tasha can take them with her to work. She can just grab one. So instead of buying canned soup or having to stop somewhere and get that, you just take one of these pint jars, put some boiling water or heated up chicken stock or bone broth in here, and you have an extremely flavorful soup that is homemade and organic. So we're big fans of our Harvest Right freeze dryer. We got the large just based on the size of our family. We haven't used it to its full capacity yet because we kind of had an off year for our garden. But as we start producing more and more for our garden and cooking more and more food for our family, this is an amazing way to preserve food. So thank you much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.